Hello everyone and welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's Wednesday the 12th of August 2026. I'm Kerry Holzman and today we're going to follow up with a $15,000 server that we were tasked to repair. And through all of that, we ended up with it and we still have it today. In fact, I still even have the plastic is still on the glass, and it was set aside in the hopes that we would eventually find a buyer. And this thing, it is massively equipped. Like, this is so much computer that even I couldn't find a use for it myself. So it's been sitting off to the side, kind of waiting for a buyer, sort of like an orphan. And I thought, you know what we could do today, since things have been slow, let's put it back up on the bench. Let's see how out of date it is with Windows updates, and maybe check for a BIOS update. And then also show you what 512 gigs of RDIMM RAM, that's 8 sticks of RAM that are 64 gigs each, how that delays the boot up time quite a bit, because it has to check that RAM. It's one of the longest boot up times you'll ever see. For all those people that think RAM makes things go faster, it actually can significantly slow your boot time, and we'll show that off today. Also, we got a 3090 GPU in there. I'm sure that needs driver updates. We'll look for other driver updates as well as, you know, like the Intel driver updater. Even though this is a Threadripper, if it has any Intel components, I can't remember, like networking or anything like that, we can use the Intel driver update optionally to get those and update them. Otherwise, we can go to the manufacturers of those network cards and see if they have new drivers available. But first, let me remind you, our friends over at VIP-URCDKEYs, we partnered with them so that we can make sure that you guys get legitimate license keys for Windows or Office. There's so many scam sellers online. You might get lucky, you might not get so lucky, but if you use VIP-URCDKEYs, I personally guarantee you're going to either get a working key or your money back, okay? So you have 6 months of free support from them as well. So after the purchase, if you have any problems, up to 6 months. I don't know anybody else who does this, by the way, not even Microsoft. So if you're interested in that, let me show you how you can learn more about it. If we go over here to a video I made a few weeks ago, you'll see just below the video, there's this gray box there to the left side, and then it says more. And if you click on that, all the video description opens up with the links of everything we're talking about in that particular video, and that includes these links to VIP-URCDKEYs. So you can see the common links people want, or you can just go to the website yourself and search for it yourself. This is meant to make it easy for you. So here I've clicked on Windows 11 Pro, and if I try to click the Buy It Now button, it needs me to sign in because it has to know who they're billing and who they're sending a receipt to, as well as the license code. They're not going to just publish it publicly in a forum. So if you don't have an account, it's free to make one. And then once you've done that, then you can buy it. And then it'll take it to this page right here, which shows you a summary of what's in your shopping cart. If you put my first name in under the promo code, you'll see the price drops 25%. Once again, you don't have to do that. Then submit your order, and then it'll take you to payment options page, which is, you know, all the standard ways you pay for anything on the internet. Nothing's any different here. Once you select your payment method, then you'll, you know, answer the on-screen questions that are unique to that payment method, just as you would for any other online purchase. And within about 2 minutes, day or night, weekend or holiday, you're going to get an email receipt. And that email receipt will have a confirmation of the price, the date, the time, your order number, which is important if you need support, because remember, they get scammed too, as well as the download link for the product and your activation key. If at any point in the future you ever need that because you have deleted the email, you've lost it, whatever the excuse is. I know for me, doing support questions, the amount of people who can't keep track of their own stuff and expect me to do it for them for free is one reason to get the heck out of support. You know, it's sort of like you're the Ford dealer and someone bought a car from you, and now they want to know where their keys are. How would I know where your keys are? Why are you calling me? Well, the great solution to this dilemma, because I would say from the merchant side of things, that's not support because you didn't organize your stuff. And the consumer would say, that's your responsibility. You should have a record of the transaction. So the brilliant thing is when you sign in with your account, you can see your entire purchase history that contains the download link and the activation key indefinitely. So 5 years from now, you want to go back and, you should see my purchase history. It goes on for pages. But in any event, it's not a commission-based link. So if you want to buy it, buy it. If you don't want to buy it, don't buy it. Okay, I'm not twisting your arm. I'm trying to make it safe and easy for you, so you're not rolling the dice and hoping for the best. I guarantee you this works out every single time. And if not, they will help you with their live chat. If there's still a problem, which is almost never a problem after that, you reach out to me directly in email, and we'll either get that problem resolved by activation or through me giving you my money out of my pocket, even though that's not a commission-based link. That's how confident I am, and that's why they're the only ones I talk about like that on this channel. Well, any other products that I show you here are reviews, and I might tell you I like it or I don't like it, but if you have any problems, you would take it back to whoever you gave your money to. This is the only exception that I've ever run to that rule. So I've never had to pay anybody their money back, ever. But I would. And if I had to do it a bunch of times, I wouldn't be here endorsing that company anymore. So, just so you know where I'm coming from. All right, now with that out of the way, let me say hello to everybody joining us in the chat. In fact, you know what? Let me put that off for just a moment, because I want to fire this bad boy up, and it's going to take a while also to check for updates. And so while it's going to do all that, then we'll have that running, and then I'll do this. Okay, so that makes more sense time-wise. So first I'm going to flip the power supply to the on position. And then I think I have to stand up and find the power button on this thing. Is massive. Right there. Ooh, something doesn't sound good. Oh, I got a cable hitting the fan. That's an easy fix. Well, these are captive screws. Hear that? We're starting off with a bang, aren't we? So I need to wire tie. This is why we use cable ties. That's exactly why. So I will do that a little bit later. But while I'm in here, let me make sure all the fans are spinning, the cooler's running, and let's jump over to the streamer over here to see the video output, see where we're at on our boot sequence. Okay, so far, no booty, but that's okay. Just you got to be patient with these big servers. They do take a while to initialize. That is normal. I also have my spare keyboard and mouse back here. You can't see it because the computer's so huge. I suppose I can take camera 1 and put myself down in the corner. That way you're not just looking at a black screen. And we'll watch this together. In theory, we should get a post screen here after it goes through all that 512 gigs of RAM. I don't know how well you can see in the system here, but there are 8 sticks of what's called RDIMM memory. And there's 4 banks of it on the right side of the CPU and 4 banks of it on the left side. And hopefully, there it goes. See, the more RAM you add, the slower your computer's going to get, at least at startup. That's normal. So you just keep buying that expensive RAM you don't need and keep slowing your computer's boot up down. Knock yourself out. You don't hear this from the enthusiasts because they don't know this. That's why they don't tell you. So by giving you a live demonstration, you can see for yourself that as you drool over that amount of RAM, you understand. It's like drooling over eating a house made of chocolate. You eat all that, and it's not going to end well for you. Okay, it might be a great idea, but in practice, it's a terrible thing to experience. But if it's a server, it probably doesn't get booted very often. A server typically stays on 24/7 unless there's maintenance, upgrades, things like, updates. Otherwise, it just stays on. Now, because this hasn't been booted up in quite a while, and we'll find out when we go to Windows Update, it'll tell us. Yeah, look at that. I got a 4 terabyte Western Digital drive in there. We could have a bad BIOS battery at this point. I'm not sure, but it seems to have lost its settings. So what I'm going to do is grab the keyboard and hit F1. Do I have the keyboard on? F1. There we go. And then we could check our BIOS version in here if we want to. It looks like it's from January 1st. No, that's the date. Yeah, I think our battery died on the motherboard. We're at version 1602 on the BIOS. All right, let's go over to just save and exit it. It should be fine until we turn the computer off and it has to rely on the battery again. Now, it shouldn't have to retrain that memory a second time in a row. I say shouldn't, but you're still going to notice the boot up time is a bit longer than what you might be accustomed to on a home computer. The motherboard in this weighs about 12 or 14 pounds, empty, just the bare board. And the bare board is $2,000 just for the motherboard. You're looking at another $3-4 grand for the CPU, and then whatever the memory's worth, whatever the solid state drive is worth. We have a 1200 watt power supply in there and a 3090 NVIDIA graphics card. I think it's a Founders Edition card. So it is taking a while to boot, and then that's what happens. If you end up eating that entire chocolate house, you're probably going to become a chocolate house, and you ain't going to move so fast either, are you? You have no idea how much I grit my teeth and bite my tongue when I keep hearing people talking about wanting to add more memory to add more performance. And I'm just shaking my head going, oh, these poor folks, they just don't know. So if you need the RAM desperately, then obviously you're going to tolerate a longer boot up time so that once you're in Windows, things will work faster if you're using that kind of RAM. Otherwise, if you're not using that kind of RAM, Windows won't run any differently. It's only your boot up time you're slowing down and spending money you don't need to spend because you got manipulated by an enthusiast online. Okay? And then, look, it's no different than any other snake oil salesman. In some cases, the enthusiasts don't know any better. They may not necessarily intend harm, they just truly believe. Or their limited experience means they don't really understand, they don't see the full picture. So they only tell you what they understand. And that means that you're going to find out at your expense and you can't hold them liable because you're the one who did it voluntarily. You chose to believe them, you chose to spend your money, and now you're the one that's going to suffer the consequences. Now, if you're okay with it, I'm okay with it. I'm just trying to look out for you. So finally, it did post, and now we're getting the toilet bowl spinning, and we'll get Windows Windows loaded here, and we'll take a look at. We'll go to Windows Update and see how old this Windows install is. It's probably been a while. Let me get rid of camera 1 so we can see the whole screen. And what do we got here? Oh, yay. That's nonsense. We'll go to data backup. Skip for now. Because, I've learned since then to get rid of that stuff. Just go to Settings. And then go to System. And then go to Notifications right here. Scroll down, all the way down, and you see Additional Settings. And uncheck these 2 boxes. That takes care of that. All right, so what are we running in this bad boy? Right click, System. It's probably 24H2. It is 24H2. AMD Ryzen Threadripper 3995WX 64-core CPU. 512 gigs of RAM. And yeah. Let's go to Windows Update. Last checked June 25th. So that means this has been 14 months since it's been turned on. 14 months. So this is what happens to a computer if it sits without being turned on. It's massively out of date. So when we check for updates here, we're going to be missing 14 months of updates. In some cases, it's just faster to reinstall Windows. Yeah. Mara says we've got email. Right on. Thank you, Mara. Stop drooling at this computer. It's not that attractive. It's
amazingly awesome.
10 gig Ethernet on the back, couple of Thunderbolt ports. It's a $2,000 motherboard. Just a bare motherboard is $2 grand. with nothing else, just the motherboard. And you're going to need 2 hands to pick it up. It is heavy.
You got 2 hands. I got 2 hands. We're covered.
All right, so you can see it's going to grab Windows 11 25H2 along with a couple other updates, including NVIDIA. It is an Intel network card driver. So we'll let that run. It's going to be a little while. And yeah, 14 months without updates. Phew, that is a long time. Let me come back over to camera 1, bring that back up. And let's say hello to everybody joining us here in the chat room. Jonathan Fells says hello, along with Gary Tatum. Of course, our channel administrator, Marlena, hanging out in there with us. See if I can turn that a little bit and you can see me. Let's see. Andy, W6AD, probably a little disappointed this is not anything close to a mini PC. It's a mega PC. See, we go from one extreme to the other, from Monday to Wednesday, or Sunday to Wednesday. Let's see. Sean Skinner says hello. There's Bike Man joining us in our live chat, along with Ron Barnish and Green Dragon. Welcome in, guys. Elijah52 Dickens says hello. And David Graham says hello. Crazy Larry Watson said, I'm debating getting a fully loaded G-Tac rugged or Lenovo ultra-fast 124 gig RAM for multitasking. So RAM isn't really needed for multitasking. It's mostly needed for, I mean, these days, the most common reason would be running virtual machines, multiple, not just one virtual machine, but multiple virtual machines, which something like this would be really well suited for. Or if you run a very large language model for processing your own AI locally, rather than, you know, using the services of these $100 million data centers, this still won't compete, neither will that, compared to using the data centers, because they've got a $100 million plus data center that has way more processing power and RAM than you can possibly imagine. But for some privacy advocates, that kind of RAM is needed. But, you know, it's so expensive right now, it would be something I would have a hard time justifying, me personally. And I don't know anyone outside of a hobbyist with money, that a lot more money than I have, that just would do that for fun. So it's your money. Let's see. I mean, he does say his name's Crazy Larry, so that does sort of make that par for the course. But, you know, he could have a legit reason for that. I don't know anybody that has a legit reason for it outside of the internet, like not in real life. Let's see. Michael Lavelle says hello. There's Dustin Fuller joining us as well. The Muffin Man says hello, and Jim Kenny. I'm sorry if I'm mentioning some of these names twice. I can't remember who I've already said hello to. Bradley Morris says hello. There's Ben Laird joining us. Well, it looks like the computer went to sleep on me. Hold on a second. Let me move the mouse. Either that or the NVIDIA graphics drivers being installed. One or the other. Maybe it's the graphics driver going in there. Let me see. Just happened. I think it's the graphics driver. So I'm going to just let that sit for a minute. Let's get back over here, and let's see. Tech Smart Computer says hello. John Williams joins us along with Victor Torres. The Mopar Nerd says hello. John joins us along with Mark Gaines. Lou Greenia says hello along with Bajan Guy and Frankie B. Welcome in. Welcome in. Frankie says, that's the one Patrick from Serve the Home gave me to fix. That is correct. You have a good memory. Frankie says, keep your eyes on Mara. She's going to run off with the server. She couldn't pick this up, more or less run with it. She could steal the chair I'm sitting in. But I would pay money to watch that happen. Let's see. Stephen Detroit says hello from South Africa, where he says it is freezing over there because it's wintertime over there. All right, well, if you're wondering who I'm saying hello to, we broadcast live around the planet in 4K with an open chat room, invited everybody. Everybody's invited to come in and say hello. So if you're watching this video, this is not a television show. This is an interactive broadcast, meaning for you to jump in and say hello to everybody and see where that goes. You know, people become friends, and it all starts with saying hello, or asking me questions, and I'm happy to answer you. Unlike most other content creators, I do not ignore my viewers, especially not during a live stream, because that kind of defeats the point of having a live stream. I might as well just record it and post it if I'm going to ignore the viewers. That's television. You know what I mean? Like, why would I do this live? Why does anybody do it live if they don't do live interaction? I don't get it. But just so you know what to expect, you get a lot more out of this video if you participate than if you just watch. It's sort of like you can watch us eat dinner, or you can grab a plate and grab some food and join us for dinner. Which one do you think you'd enjoy more? Choose accordingly. Just don't be rude. That's all. Really? Isn't that obvious? Not today, it isn't. Let me see how we're doing on Windows updates now. It's still not popping up. Why is my Windows update? Hold on a second. Let me go full screen over here and see what's going on. Let's go to the projector so I can see. So we see there's a window running here, right? Let me see if I can close this window and then just reopen it again. It should not affect Windows updates downloading or installing, but there's something very strange happening here where it's almost like it's opening in another window. And one way you can figure that out is if I hit the Windows button with the letter P, and instead of extending, let's do duplicate just to see if it's on another screen. Doesn't look like it. So what it appears to me is one of those updates, because it's so out of date, is kind of messed around with the system a little bit. So what I'm going to do, so I can just keep an eye on progress, you can either ignore it until it tells you it's ready to restart, or I can just restart it right now. And then in theory, whatever borked will come back to normal. Now the restart shouldn't take near as long as a fresh power on. And to get to the BIOS battery, if we want to check that, I think it's hidden behind this giant, 3 PCI slot wide GeForce RTX 3090. This is a Founders Edition, I believe. So I don't know if we'll do that today. I might do it once we're not on camera. You can see how long, even on a restart, this is taking to reboot. And that's par for the course on a proper server. Servers don't boot up in 13 seconds. All right, I've never seen one that does. Even a NAS device will need about 2 to 3 minutes to power on, or to restart even. This is more similar to that than it is to a home computer. Obviously, these usually, when they're in use by a company, need very high priority uptime, meaning if there's anything that happens to them, they need immediate service. This isn't like somebody sitting at home going, I'll get around to fixing it. No, the whole business stops. So techs sometimes have to be on call, or if they're full-time, they drop whatever they're doing. This becomes the priority because of how much of the business relies on this. And many businesses have more than one of these all running at the same time, each one doing its own dedicated job. So whatever job this was assigned, nobody in the office can do that job until this is remedied. So you don't want to restart them. You don't want to, at least not during business hours, you don't want to modify them in any way. Leave it the hell alone. And you only mess with it when it's required, or after hours you do your scheduled maintenance. But if it's a server that runs 24 hours, like let's say Google, they don't take Google down to work on it. They have to have duplicate servers running at other data centers so they can take one down and you don't even realize it. A lot of companies don't have that kind of a budget to buy a second duplicate. And as a result, You really just never mess with it. And if it's 24/7, good luck being their IT person. I hope they pay you really well, okay? Because that's a heck of a responsibility. So let me just go back to full screen over here. I want to change this wallpaper that drives me crazy. I'm going to display, no, personalize this. Let's see here. Everything's seemingly not quite working right. Over to settings. You notice no windows are opening up for me. And sometimes, yeah, that's very odd. When I hit the Windows button in the letter P, and I get these options here, it doesn't seem to be having any effect. So it tells us that, you know, even though it's defaulting to extend the display, extend it to where is unclear to me. And even going to display settings, I don't see anything opening down here. Now here, it's showing a control panel is open. See the line underneath the icon? And there is a window open here. So how do I see that? What I could do is cheat a little bit and say, let's go to gemini.google.com and say I'm in Windows 11 24H2, and during a Windows update, I no longer see, I gotta spell it right. I no longer see, oh, by the way, you can use your microphone, you don't have to type. I can't use mine because I'm using it to talk to you, but let's see, I no longer see open apps. Let's see what it says. Restart Windows Explorer. Oh, I didn't think of that. Yeah, Control-Shift-Escape. See, even that's not opening on this page. Re-register core shell packages. Ooh. Run system file and image checks. Microsoft freely pushes out of band cumulative patches to fix these kind of issues that could have been caused by Windows Update, ironically. And that's why it's so important to always get all your updates. It may also be possible to move the window. Can I move the window with the keyboard? I can't remember what the keys are for this. Alt space, that's what it is. Alt space, and then press the M key for move. So Alt space, and press M, and then use the arrow keys. Let's try that. Alt space isn't doing anything. M, arrow keys, no. Let me click it one more time just to make sure. Oh, wait. I found it. It does see a second monitor. Okay. We're going to say extend show only on monitor 1. Let's try that. See if that works. Let's go back to settings. Now it's working like I expected to. Not sure why that's happening. That's the second time now we've seen that behavior. First time on an Intel build, the second time now on a Threadripper. I think it has something to do with Windows Update, but not a big deal to resolve it. And let me get back to where I was. Okay. Now, Mara mentioned we have an email. Let me check email right quick. Oh, our friend Buster sends an Amazon gift card. He says, hello, Carrie, Mara, and Sable the cat. This is my thanks for tonight's show. This is your friend Buster. Thank you, Buster. And Mark Gaines, our friend from Northern Ireland, says, I hope you enjoy this gift card. This is my contribution for tonight's show. Nice thumbnail, Mara. Very creative. As usual and expected, if she wants to keep her job. She does a good job. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Buster. Thanks for supporting the channel. So while that is going through the the processes of Windows updates. Then when it reboots, we can check for some more updates to 25H2. And then we can check for updates on the NVIDIA graphics card that are newer than the ones we're getting from Microsoft. Then we can do a disk cleanup to clean up all those update installation files off of our drive to free up some space. And we can run Windows 11 Optimizer, which I recommend you do anytime you get a big Windows update, just to make sure any settings haven't been defaulted back. And what else? Look for driver updates to the AMD Adrenalin, of course, for Threadripper. And look for updates to the Intel graphics, the Intel network card. And so we can use either going online and searching for just the driver itself for the network card, or use the Intel driver assistant and let it scan the system for anything else that might be Intel. I think that's the only Intel thing. Oh, Thunderbolt 2 would be Intel. So it's probably faster to just reinstall Windows at this point. Just put a brand new, wipe the drive, install Windows 11 25H2 from scratch for as much time as this is going to take. The beauty about doing it this way is you don't have to sit here and watch it. You can use the computer if you need to use it, or you can walk away from it and go about your day. Whatever you were going to do when this was done, start doing it now. Come back later, it'll be ready. So one involves you having to be in front of it, clicking next and answering questions and then resetting the whole thing. Or the other option is hit update and walk away. That's it. So whichever you choose. If we needed this up quickly, if time was of the essence, then I would just wipe it and reinstall it. But since my default isn't, in this example, it's not about urgency, it's about what's the easiest way, what's the least amount of effort I have to put in, and that would be waiting. There's nothing less effort than waiting. Find something else to do. Let's see. So to each their own, there's not a right or a wrong answer, right? So which way you choose to go, you're the one responsible for it. It's your time, it's your effort. Andy says this computer's so huge it makes Kerry look like he shrank, right? You used to see me around mini PCs, and then you see me next to this. I totally get it. Slavko says hello in the chat room, and Molten Lava says I should just hit the reset button. Eddie Casanova says hello. Lucky number 7 says, tell me your password. My password is Kenny. I want all my logins to be Kenny logins because I live in the danger zone. What other questions you got? Steven says, Kerry, you got a fantastic sense of humor. Thank you, Steven. You know, speaking of that, I was just thinking the other day, cottage cheese is not cheese. It's just occurred to me. It's just occurred to me. You'll get it. Just give it time. I'll just entertain myself over here. Frankie says, Mara will figure out a way to get this thing moved. And I want to see her take it upstairs. That might be how I came in for repair to begin with. It was shipped via UPS and just completely destroyed in shipping. I have a feeling something similar will be the end result if Mara tries to carry this up the stairs by herself. John Williams says, ha ha, Carrie, pennies are no longer being made. I can tell you that here on YouTube, we're not making any pennies here. YouTube used to pay us in pennies, and now they won't even do that anymore. But thankfully, we have supportive members that keep us floating, keep us moving on. Alrighty. Yeah, this is going to be a while. These are some big updates, because that Windows 11 25H2 could be a very fast install if we had kept up with the updates. But since we didn't, instead of downloading all the updates on 24H2 and then being able to do the quick 25H2 enablement, it's just downloading the full 8 gig 25H2 install and is effectively going to reinstall Windows on top of itself. That way we don't have to install all the updates. And Microsoft has made that decision for us, whether we like it or not. Luke Greenia says, even as impressive as that beast is, I would take a minis for a mini PC over it. I'm a practical kind of guy. Rest assured, anybody that I'm aware of that buys computers like this and they drop $15,000 on a computer doesn't do it because they want to. It's not a choice. If they want their business to be operational and to earn a profit, they do it because they have to. That's it. So when people are watching YouTube videos and they see stuff like this and they think, oh, I want that at home, that's not how business works. Or at least that's not how a working business will work for very long. It's basically, it's a tool required to perform a service for a customer. And if you don't have the tool, you can't service the customer. If you can't service the customer, you don't make any money. So you got to spend some money to make a lot more money. This isn't for home users. But if a home user has the extra money laying around and that's what they want to do with it, of course, that's their business. I would say an exception would be a home user running a business out of their home, but even then that would be very, very uncommon. David Graham says, what would you need all the power for? Surely not just a server. Oh, sure. Yeah, just a server, because you have applications that multiple people could be trying to access at the same time. So you think of how heavyweight is a Google search. Like when you go to Google, you're going to a Google server. You're not running a big application, right? You're not running some huge AutoCAD or video editing software. It's just an open search, and then you type in your search. We're not talking about a big application here, are we? Pretty simple. The problem is, there's probably 10 million people trying to use it anywhere around the world at the exact same second you are, any time of the day. You know, what's different time zones around the world, it never, ever sees a period of no use. I think, at the very least, the Google search engines, well, I mean, I wonder if AI could answer this question. Let me try. How many inquiries? What is the least number of inquiries Google gets in any 24-hour period? In 1998, it was almost 20 years ago, it was getting around 10,000 queries a day. However, today they process about 13.7 billion, almost twice the number of people on the planet using, you know, not everybody's online though. Those who do are using Google multiple times a day. So 13.7 to 16.4 billion searches every day, averaging around 158,000 to nearly 190,000 queries per second. Because Google serves a global user base around time zones, the search volume dips and it rises in a continuous wave rather than dropping off entirely. even during the lowest traffic hours globally, typically late night, early morning hours in the Americas combined with lulls elsewhere, the sheer scale of the global internet ensures that billions of queries are still being processed. So just taking a look at scale, right? Understanding that the world around you isn't the city you live in, it's not the state or the country you live in, it's not even about the continent that you live on. It is the entire surface of the planet Earth. So you have to understand that when you're providing a server on the internet, and as it gains popularity, or let's say, for example, your State Farm Insurance, and you have offices throughout the United States and potentially in other countries, I don't know, and this server is just for your employees. How many employees does Microsoft have? And how many campuses around the planet does Microsoft have? Or Intel, or Ford Motor Company? And you need to provide the services to the employees for office work. Is it starting to make sense to you now? The scale is the planet. Jim Kenny wants to know if a mini runs on 120 watts, how much does this use? Well, the graphics card is probably a big part of it, and depending on whether or not it's under load. So again, if we go back to let's go back to Gemini and see if it can answer this for us, because I'm not sure of the answer myself. Should just leave Gemini open, shouldn't I? How many watts of power does a Threadripper 3995, what is it, an X or something, 39, I forgot, with 512 gig RDIMM RAM and 3090 GTX consume on average at peak? It looks like it'll consume roughly 850 to 1,000 watts at the wall. The CPU itself is up to 280 watts, but actual package power could spike just alone to up to 500 watts. Then the GPU, you're looking at potentially another close to 500 watts. The RAM is not a big deal, and then of course the motherboard chipset could be another 100 watts. Now, a standard outlet in a house is 15 amps, which is 15 amps times 120 volts would be 1,800 watts. Is that right? And then some homes may have a 20 amp circuit here in America. 20 amps times 120 volts. You know what? I should just ask Gemini. I might be doing the math wrong. Let's go back. That's why when you see like a 1,500 watt power supply, I hope you don't have anything else in your house like a printer, anything else on that same circuit, or you're going to start blowing fuses. That prevents your house from burning down. So hopefully you're blowing fuses. So let's see, 120 watts times, I'm sorry, not watts, 120 volts times a 1,500 watt power supply equals 12.5 amps. So if we have a 15 amp circuit, the number of watts could be 1,800, okay? And then a 20 amp circuit would be 2,400 watts. I was way off on the other one. Okay, so 2,400 watts. And that's pretty much it for an American household. A typical server requires, I'm going to just misspell it, how many amps? One to 3 amps on a 1U or 2U server, and then on an enterprise level, you're probably feeding it 240 volts of power. So in a, let's see, in a data center, how many amps do they consume per day? Ooh, haha. So we start measuring in megawatts or kilowatts. Kilowatts is usually how electricity bills are done, but you need electricians that can wire in like 415 volts of power. You need, the scale of this is insanely massive. And that's why there's a real need for skilled electricians to build these data centers. This isn't something you do yourself. This is really complex. And the power has to be divided amongst the data center in a way that you're not overloading one side versus the other. It all has to get balanced out on different circuits so that one thing doesn't take out, like a set of Christmas lights, you know, the entire thing. Or there's, you want to talk about financial loss. There's enough financial loss if a segment of it goes down. Imagine the financial loss of the whole thing goes down. Every second it's down, you're losing money. And that's why those positions for people that are in charge of, you know, bringing that back online are paid very, very well. And they're expected to be on call, just no different than a fireman. The fire is on, and the longer it takes you to get there, the more it burns. And they're paid very well. They're stressed out, but they might love it. Good line of work if you can get it and you don't mind the stress. Let's just minimize that this time in case I need to go back there. So I appreciate your questions. What else you got for me? NJ says no one mentioned Windows extension of Windows 10 to October 2027. So in fact, everyone has mentioned it. I don't know where you've been, but literally, if you search YouTube for it, on the day that was announced, there's no less than 40 videos on it, including us. You're coming in after it happened, like an earthquake happened, and it's been all over the news. And 3 months later, you come in and go, how come nobody's talking about the earthquake? We were all talking about it when it happened. You just weren't here. That's why. Just don't want it to be a mystery to you. You missed. The content's there. You can go back and look at it anytime you want. Back when it was news. It's not news anymore. I mean, it's news to you, but if you watched us regularly, you would have known about this months ago. So, you know, keep yourself informed. That's my job here, is I want to make sure everybody stays up to date. I'm not here to just keep repeating what happened last year or 3 months ago. We've already moved on from that. I better move this glass panel because it is going to get knocked over. And this thing is massive and heavy. Just this glass panel is probably 4 pounds. All right, we'll set it there. David Graham says, why would the server have a 3090 in it if it's to be used or configured for many connections to data? Well, we don't know why. First of all, the Threadripper doesn't have a graphics card built into it. There's no onboard GPU in the Threadripper. So you have to provide your own video card, and typically the video cards that are put into machines like this are high-end Quattro $15,000 graphics cards to do high-end computational work depending on the application. So let's say, for example, you're on an oil rig in the middle of the ocean and you're looking for places where you can drill. And I don't know if you know how that works, but you have this giant platform that floats across the ocean, and it's scanning the surface of the ocean floor, and it's mapping it out live as they're moving. I'm not quite sure if you can imagine how much computational power that takes, because if they move too quickly, the computer can't keep up. If they move too slowly, it's costing them a lot of money. So the more powerful the graphics card that can process the topology information on screen as a map, and this is just one example, would easily cover the cost of a $15,000 graphics card. So if I had to guess, and I do have to guess, without asking Patrick, my guess is that I'm not sure how they were using this. They've since replaced it. But if I had to imagine, they more than likely have spare, these are considered cheap graphics cards, the 3090s, 4090s, 5090s, those are the cheap ones. And they probably have an abundance of them, and since, you know, let's say they don't need this for graphics, let's say they may not even be plugging it into a monitor, for all we know. Like most servers, it may just be headless, meaning there's no keyboard, no mouse, no monitor, and everything's done online. What do you need that video card for? Well, you do need a video card to work on it, to set it up, to configure it, or to fix it, right? And if you've got a spare 3090 laying around, and maybe they did a review on it or something, it's free. They've already got it. They probably just put it in there for that reason. Remember, this didn't come out of a working factory. That would be a different configuration than this. This came from the folks that serve the home, and I'm not exactly sure what logic they used. Now, this motherboard did come with, I believe, 2 add-in cards that will each hold 4 NVMe drives each. And then the motherboard holds another 3. And in the condition we received this, both of those those M.2 expansion cards were filled. And Patrick, I think there were 2 of them, and Patrick said, would you mind giving us the drives back? They wanted to recover data off of them. But if you wanted to, you could have 3 NVMe drives on the motherboard in utilization, and 8 NVMe drives on the add-in cards that are included with the motherboard at that $2,000 price, for a total of 11 drives. Again, I'm not sure why someone just wouldn't put in a big hard drive. Like, why would they need that fast of processing? But this does have a 10 gig interface on it. But, you know, because this came from a service that reviews components, they often have, you know, what do they do with the components when they're done reviewing them, right? So why go out and get a $15,000 graphics card if you've already got another one laying around? Frankie wants to know if I'm going to change the CMOS battery. Well, I am going to change it. The only question is, am I going to do that on camera or not? For me to do that on camera, everything has to get unplugged. I got to pull the video card out, and then it's just 2 minutes to pop the chip, the battery out. I'm sure that battery's dead. I have spare batteries, but I can't do that while it's running. So I need to make sure that these updates get done, and that's a higher priority to me. The battery is the least of my concern. In most cases, the batteries on servers could go bad. No one would ever know, because in most cases, the servers never get unplugged from the wall. If I had this sitting for 14 months plugged in but turned off, as long as the power supply switch was in the on position, then the battery wouldn't be needed. The only time the battery is used is when the power plug's been pulled or the power supply switch is in the off position, and it sits like that for months, living off nothing but the battery to maintain the date and time. And you'll get about 5 years out of those batteries, and I think it's only been about 3 years since we bought the board. So it's a little early for the battery to die, but you know, I don't know how old the board was sitting in inventory. A $2,000 motherboard doesn't move as quickly in inventory as a $300 or $150 motherboard. So it could have already been 2 years old when we bought it, for all we know. So I am going to change that CMOS battery. Whether or not we have time to do it on camera is just a question of time. It's pretty boilerplate. The battery just pops out, pop another one in. The hard part's basically just unplugging everything, getting the video card out. Once we do that, which honestly isn't that much work, it's just, you know, it's a process. So when it's live and on camera versus when it's me just kind of whistling to myself, it's a very different mindset about trying to get it done. But ultimately, it's probably an 8-minute job. And Barry says, I have a stair climbing hand truck you could borrow to move that thing around upstairs. Thank you for the offer, Barry. So this unit itself, as far as power goes, you'd be able to run this fine in a standard American home. It's really not consuming much more power than a high-end gaming PC. However, you know, it's only a 1200 watt power supply. So if the system tried to draw more than 1200 watts, it would crash. And if my wall outlet is at, what, 1800 watts? If there's nothing else on the circuit, you know, if I have a microwave oven or a hair dryer or something on the same circuit, and I turn them both on at the same time, or turn one on while the other one is on, it would likely shut everything down and pop the circuit. And I'd have to go out to the fuse box and flip the breaker back on. It would trigger the breaker. And it triggers the breaker to prevent the house from catching fire. More voltage you're pulling through, the more amperage you're pulling through the cabling will get hotter and hotter and hotter until it will spontaneously, you know, it'll glow and burn into, create a fire. And so when your house is being built, the electricians have to put in a certain kind of cable, a certain thickness of cable, a certain length of cable that is designed for a certain amount of watts or amperage. Once you exceed that amperage, that should trigger the circuit breaker to keep you from harming yourself. So as long as your circuit breakers work, you should be just fine. And you might curse out, all that damn circuit breaker went off. That anytime that circuit breaker goes off, it's likely saving your life. Damn it, it saved my life. I hate that thing. What a pain in the butt. Or you have a bad circuit breaker. The good news about something like this is if you're really mad at it and you want to throw it out a window, you probably can't. You have to be in very good shape and very strong. You'd have to be like, you know, Alan Richson or, you know, Lou Ferrigno or somebody to pick that thing up and throw it. You're going to hurt yourself is what you're going to do. Let's see how we can make a bad situation worse. What could I do? Now it looks like it's pending a restart, but I don't see the screen that I'm normally accustomed to seeing. Oh, I see. That's because Windows 11 25H2 is still installing. I'm looking at a really small window, so even with my glasses on, it's hard to see. So when that is done, we should get the pop-up that says, hey, we're ready to restart. But yeah, Bikeman, most homes are built with a 15 amp circuit. It's been that way my whole life as far as I know. Let's ask Gemini. American homes. Are there any homes in America with less than 15 amp circuits? Yes, though they're very rare and strictly a product of history, under the modern National Electric Code in the United States, 15 amps is the absolute minimum standard rating for general purpose residential branch circuits, and they must use 14 gauge wire. Again, the wire gauge determines how much voltage at what, and how much heat, and how much amperage, rather. I keep saying voltage. How much amperage. Now, back in the day, 10 amp fuses, back in the early to mid 20th century, all the way through the 1950s, homes equipped with fuse boxes rather than modern circuit breakers sometimes utilized 10 amp fuses, because houses back then only powered low wattage incandescent light bulbs and a radio. That's all there was to buy. There wasn't anything else to plug in. Well, most of these old fuse boxes and wiring setups have long been ripped out, upgraded, or modernly retrofitted during home flips You can still occasionally stumble across vintage underground systems like old knob and tube or early armored BX cable in untouched historical homes that retain legacy low amperage protection. So there you go. I mean, there's nothing anybody should have to worry about here in the United States, unless you want like an old Victorian home or something that hasn't ever been upgraded, and maybe it's being kept as a museum and they want to leave everything for historical reasons. Knob and tube wiring is scary stuff, man. It's all exposed. It's very easy to reach up and electrocute yourself. And I don't know why anybody would want to keep that. It's also a massive fire hazard. But that was the best we had back then, you know. But that's long before I was even on this planet. Probably long before any of you were on this planet. Bikeman says you're not going to need a Kingston lock with that server. They're going to earn it for sure, right? I mean, you could still want to secure it down because somebody could lift it onto a rolling cart. Like when the IT department delivers these, they don't carry them in. They have a push cart. Just like when you go grocery shopping and you want to buy something heavy, you put it on the cart and wheel the cart out. So it could absolutely, I mean, to be serious, having it locked down. But they are traditionally in a locked and secured room. Most server rooms will require some form of entry code or key or combination, even a palm scan. You know, depends the size of the business and how many servers are in that room. You want to keep your employees out. You don't want somebody going, I don't know where the IT guy is. I'll go fix it myself. No, 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 no. Like if I wanted to go into the server room when I worked at Intel or when I worked at the big power company, you just didn't walk in. You were not. I'm thinking of, what's his name? Sean from Game of Thrones. One does not simply walk into a server room. Good luck. It's like trying to walk into a police department with a bag of heroin and see how long it is that you stay on your 2 feet. Mark Leibowitz says, I tell my clients to defenestrate their errant tech. Defenestrate? No complaints yet. I just tell them to make sure there's nobody they like passing under the window first. Defenestrate. Know that word. To throw someone or something out a window. It also has a figurative meaning, to force a leader or person out of a job, power, or a high position. The word comes from de, meaning down, from, and fenestra, meaning window. Oh, look at you expanding my vocabulary. Let's see if I can use that in a sentence this week. I don't think that's what he wanted me to take from his little story, but there you go. There's Barry Klein saying to throw out the window. There you go. Thank you, Barry. Defenestrate, Mark Leibowitz says. Defenestrate. Thank you, Mark. What were we talking about again? Is it possible to throw windows out a window? That seems recursive. Let's minimize that. Get back to our status on our update. Oh, we're moving right along. Moving right along. Luke Greenia says, my house has 150 amps service. Sure, yeah, coming in from the street. Because all those 15 amp circuits and then your washer, your dryer will probably be 20 amps. All of that combined has to be what you're paying the power company for. So if it's all used at the same time, that's why when you're in an electrical box, it's one thing to change the circuit breakers. It's another thing to deal with the service, because that'll kill you if you don't know what you're doing, or you do know what you're doing but you're not paying attention or using the right safety equipment. That's serious stuff. So that's what's coming into the house, and it's being split up into fragments across different circuits in the house. Barry Klein says there's a book he has titled The Defenestration of Windows. I bet that sold a lot of copies. Just the phrasing of it. I probably wouldn't understand what's between the covers of that book. I don't know. I'm not that. Well, I write like I speak. And if I don't use these words in a conversation with the average person to be understood, I don't write them. And anytime I see an author writing in a way that people don't speak, people might speak that in Harvard or, you know, highly educated circles, but the general public, I know it's not just me. Let's restart. So I wouldn't want to put anybody else in that position. I try to make sure I pick the right words. And if it's the most appropriate word, then I will also define it if I think it's not very well utilized. So I'm not making the other person like make a choice to pretend in their head that they understood me. So I'll say, like if I would have used that word, I would have followed it with an explanation, knowing it's not a common word, and saying, you know, in part of my sentence, meaning I throw it out the window or something along those lines, where it's not too, because you're potentially talking down to somebody when you do that, but you may not be. That's the fine line you walk. Most people, I think, just nod their head and pretend they understand you when they really don't, because they don't want to be embarrassed. Bill Sony says he's not hearing me at times. Anybody else having any problem hearing me today? I don't know if I have to make some adjustments to my my noise filter if it's being too aggressive. Slappy says I'm getting an audio pop. Interesting. I may have to play it back. I can't hear myself. I can't hear what the microphone's putting out. I can see the audio meters measuring the volume, but any sort of pops or anything like that, I'm not aware of. Anyone else have a thought on that? Bajan guy said he has no audio problems on his end. Andy says a couple of pops. Huh. Carrie, you keep hitting your micro. Oh, am I hitting my microphone? That'll do it, for sure. Yeah, maybe I tapped it without realizing it. Gary says, I think you have a loose connection. It happens when I move a certain way. So if I move this cable or this cable, hopefully that fixes it. We'll see. Where the microphone plugs into the transmitter, it was a little bit loose, but it screws down. But maybe that was enough movement that it was causing it to pop. I appreciate you bringing it to my attention, and if it continues, please let me know. John Lewis says, whatever it was, it stopped. Wonderful. Thank you for the report, John. Like I said, I appreciate you guys telling me, because I don't have headphones on to monitor it. And if I did, it would be very confusing because there'd be a delay. So after I say something, I'd hear me say it seconds later while I'm still talking, hearing myself talking from what I said earlier. Oh boy, that is a mess. All right, so we're just finalizing the 25H2 update to Windows 11. And then I also want to check the BIOS on this and see if there's a BIOS update. I imagine there should be, but I don't know. And he said it's fine now, just a couple of pops a few minutes ago. Okay, appreciate it, and I'll try to be more aware of not hitting my microphone. And one more reboot here, and I think we'll get back to the desktop. Apologize, we had to start the show a little bit later than normal today. We had another Mara was being interviewed, and I thought, you know, let her use the studio and the cameras for this interview. And we weren't quite sure how long that was going to run. It was scheduled until 1 o'clock, but sometimes these things can go long. And then when she was done, I had to realign the cameras and then, you know, set the bench back up with this computer and stuff, and the lazy Susan. And I needed some time, and we weren't quite sure. I didn't want to push her through and say, oh, you know, tell them you got to wrap it up. Let her take as long as she needs. And then we initially thought we'd start the show at 1:30, just to figure that would be enough time. And she ended up actually ending a little early. And then I was able to get this all set up a few minutes before regular show time, to be honest. So we went ahead and moved the time again to 1:15 for that reason. And if you're wondering why, that's what happened. David Graham says, who interviewed her? I'll let her answer that in the chat room. All right, we got Windows loading. By the way, the system is very, very quiet, despite being massive. The quiet giant. Okay, let's see if I can change this wallpaper now. Oh, that's better. Now look at how old the CPU-Z version is, but it'll do the job for what we need here. What did I say it was? BIOS 1601 or something, as I recall. Go to the motherboard tab. We have an ASUS. This is a long motherboard name. Pro WS WRX80E-SAGE SE 2nd edition Wi-Fi 2. And BIOS is 1602. I was off. Thought it was 1601. So we would say we have an ASUS. Oh boy, how am I going to do this? Maybe I can put both windows on the screen at the same time. Wish I could copy and paste this. ASUS Pro WS WRX80E. Here. That ought to be it. BIOS update. Latest BIOS. Oh, AI comes up. 1801. Well, that's a lot newer than what we've got, right? I mean, our update's from June of 25, I think. What does it say? No, June of 24. That's a lot newer. Let's go to the website. And so if ASUS or any other motherboard maker has numerous versions of the same motherboard, then the way you know you've got the right version that matches the one you have is to simply look for the version of BIOS you have currently installed. So we have 1602, right? So when we go here and say show all, what I'm looking for is 1602, and there is 1602. That matches, we've got the right board. So then 1702 came out back on October of 25, and then 1801 came out in November, not even a month later. I mean, between 10/22 and 11/5, these two are separated by 2 weeks. Let's download it. And I'm not done with Windows Update yet. I need to keep myself entertained with something else to do. The BIOS renamer is only needed if you're going to use flashback. Otherwise, you don't need this tool. And we're not using flashback. That's like if you can't get the board to boot. And then let me grab a flash drive. So I'll use my SanDisk 8 gig flash drive. They sell these in a 5-pack at Amazon, really cheap, and they've been working 100%. Some motherboards don't like some flash drives. These flash drives have worked in every motherboard, new or old, and they're cheap. So if it breaks or fails, if the flash drive doesn't work, I throw it away. It's so inexpensive, who cares? I've never had one fail, I'm just saying. Let's right click on that and choose copy, and then let's go over to the flash drive right here and hit paste. Perfect. Now we're going to close everything out and we're going to shut the computer down. Restart, is what not shut it down, but restart it. And then we're going to go into the BIOS and use the BIOS update option in the BIOS. That's my preference. There's about 4 different ways you can do this. Sometimes a motherboard utility will do it through Windows. Sometimes there's a download utility from the manufacturer to do it through Windows, like an Intel NUC, for example. Sometimes you can check for the update and install it in the BIOS, or you can use BIOS flashback if you've got a board that won't boot. And the reason it's not booting is you have a corrupted or out-of-date BIOS with a newer CPU than it can't recognize it. That's like a last-ditch thing because it's slow, and you've got to use the BIOS renaming tool. The flash drive has to be formatted a certain way. It has to go into a certain USB slot. It's much more technical and it's more difficult than it really needs to be. So for me, almost universally, regardless of who makes the system, unless it's a mini PC, you can usually just go into the BIOS and do it. On most mini PCs, you can't do it that way. But on most mini PCs, the download would create a bootable USB that you boot from that flashes the BIOS. Or it has a utility you run in Windows that flashes the BIOS while you're in Windows. Depending on the manufacturer, that's their decision to make. So once this thing finally gets ready to restart here, which is taking forever, I will be able to enter the BIOS. I see the flash drive flashing for some reason. I'm looking on the back of the board for a BIOS flashback button, and I don't see one. Put my better glasses on. Oh, it does have a BIOS flashback button. Oh, and one of the USB ports on the back has a square outline around it, which happens to be the one I just randomly plugged into. And that doesn't matter unless you're using BIOS flashback. It only works with that one flash drive port, or one USB port is the only one it works with. But you can still use it as a regular USB port regardless. It's only if you're using BIOS flashback that it matters. But this is really annoying that this is taking this long, and I'm not quite sure why it shouldn't be. And we don't have anything to lose, so I'm just going to cut the power. And I'm going to move the flash drive just to a different port in case that's, it shouldn't be causing any problem, but why not? If it doesn't matter either way, then it won't hurt to move it. Let's turn this back on. And then we'll get to the post screen here in a minute. And I can start hitting the delete key probably right about now. Just start tapping delete. Unless it's F2. I'm not sure on this board. Usually delete does it, but I've seen other manufacturers use other key combinations, and I see so many different manufacturers all the time. It's hard for me to remember which way a company does it. So I just default by trying the delete key first. That usually works. Otherwise, I might have to Google it. Or just sit here and keep rebooting and trying different keys. I've seen the escape key used, which is a weird one. Okay, I just saw the video card light up, so we're getting somewhere. Long boot up time on this bad boy. All right, press delete or F2, perfect. Pressing, I'm pressing. You shouldn't have to press it this many times. Sometimes that creates a problem where it fills the key buffer and then the system just borks and boots into Windows. So let's see if I get lucky. I'll start alternating F2 and delete. One of them ought to get us through. Have fun with it. I mean, if that doesn't get us in, for crying out loud, this system, you know, when you deal with these high-end systems, I hope you're not in a hurry. Once they load, then they're fast. Again, me pressing the keys over and over like that could lock the whole system up. It shouldn't be taking this long. Oh, lordy, lordy. I'm going to just turn this off. Then I want to turn it back on. And this time, I'm going to wait for the ASUS logo before I start pressing any buttons. It's so hard for me to figure out, you know, with some systems, if you wait till you get the logo, they're so fast in booting that by the time you hit the button, it's too late. And other systems like this, if you start pressing it while the system's still posting, you can seize the whole system up, or as you just witnessed, you know, cause it to be very, very slow. So I'm going to try a different approach. Finally, I can wait till it loads into Windows and then go to the recovery startup and have it choose to boot to the BIOS. And then I don't have to press any keys at all. And that's the order in which I will do this. I'm trying one more time with the delete key, waiting until the ASUS logo appears on the screen. Video card light just came on, so all that motherboard post-processing just finished. Now we should see an ASUS logo here in just a moment. There it is, and I can start pressing delete. And I should, that's it, I shouldn't have to keep pressing it. Because I don't want to cause it to like freak out. And some motherboards do that, some don't. It's just deal with it. Quarryman said it needs more RAM. You should see a DDR5 1 terabyte server boot. Yeah, I'll bring a book and a Snickers bar. Gary says maybe it doesn't like your flash drive. Well, yeah, right after I said I've never seen a motherboard that doesn't like the flash drive, that's when it would happen. You know that, right? But the flash drive's not flashing. I've got a light on it and it's steady. That's a good sign. But you're right. I mean, it still could be an incompatibility, or we're just being impatient. And I default to the human being the problem in most cases, whereas the human's being too impatient and not allowing the system whatever time it needs. So I'm going to just let it sit for a minute and see if it just needs a little time. Anything that requires less effort for me, I'm all for it. If it means I've got to wait a little bit longer than try to get another flash drive and put the file on it and see if that works any faster, and that amount of time, if I had just left it alone, it might have got past these delays by itself. and all I'm doing is working harder and not smarter and ultimately slowing myself down. I'm not sure yet, but I want to give it every opportunity to get past whatever is delaying it. And as I've said it as a demonstration, the impatience is probably the biggest cause of computer problems in the industry. The impatience of the user causing the problems. And I, as a technician, I wish I knew how to fix that. And so by showing you a live demonstration, I think it's the best example for you to really understand what I'm saying and to know it's true when there's a live demo. Okay, so let's go to Tool, ASUS Easy Flash Utility. We'll select the BIOS file right here, 1801. Click yes. Or, do you want to read it? Yeah, well, probably would help if we read it. Why is it not doing anything? Okay, I think you just need to wait. Are you sure you want to update this? Yes. And finally, let me get rid of camera 1 and you can see the whole screen here. There we go. So I've configured OBS to fade my different video sources in and out. Do you like that, or did you like it better when they just popped in and out? Do you have a preference? It's not so jarring when it's fading, but you can have it fade real fast where you can barely see it, or you can have it fade very slow where it's like, let's get a move on, you know? So I set it to just a 1 second fade. The default in OBS is a quarter of a second, 250 millisecond fade. And I felt you could barely even tell. So I set everything to 1,000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. There's Anthony Remus joining us from Remus Computer Solutions. Welcome in, Anthony. Anthony builds some of the most amazing computers, primarily for like businesses, construction companies, architects. These are some very high-end, very, very technical computers. So I had the pleasure of meeting with Anthony for the first time in real life, and time flew by. Abdul Azim Patel with a $7.77 chat contribution. Thank you, Abdul. Anthony and I were talking about everything but computer. You know, you think two computer guys get together, you bet you know what the conversation's going to be about. It wasn't really about computers at all, but it might not surprise you to learn how much of the conversation was about pizza. You're probably like, oh yeah, that checks out. Anthony says, time sure did fly. Thanks for the pizza recommendations. Hey, did you like Malnati's? You never reported back. He said he was going to check out the Chicago Deep Dish Lou Malnati's here in town. And I said, make sure you get the butter crust. And then I didn't hear back. He ghosted me. I don't think he did that on purpose. You better not have. Oh, he says it was excellent. Well, there you go. All right, then. That just confirms to me, you, as I suspected all along, you and I have very similar taste, which means your taste is excellent. He says, I've been needing to send you a thoughtful response. Well, don't worry, it wasn't keeping me up at night or anything. It's just curious. I was afraid maybe you didn't like it. You didn't know how to tell me. I don't have an investment in the company. I don't care. I'm just gauging how similar our tastes are. All right. Update successfully. See that? A big company like ASUS doesn't even speak proper English. Update successfully, it says. Cracks me up. I understand when I get a computer from AliExpress with broken English. What do they call that? Chinglish? But when a company as big as ASUS just keeps doing that on their motherboards without correction, I just think it's embarrassing. With the BIOS update installed now, the system's probably going to take a little bit longer than normal to boot. So patience is absolutely required. I would say leave the system alone. Don't turn it off. Don't unplug the flash drive. Don't mess around with your keyboard or mouse. Again, this is an end user correction now where we have to tell the end user, don't be the problem. Don't be the problem. And by that I mean, leave it alone. At least for a good solid 6 to 10 minutes. And that's a long time. It can feel like forever. And on systems like this, that would be, if it were to take that long, perfectly normal. But if you start monkeying with it because it's not fast enough for you, you're preventing it from getting done, ultimately resulting in either it's going to just take it longer because every time you restart, it starts over again from the beginning, or that it won't restart at all because you corrupted it due to your impatience. So, did you touch it? You broke it. I didn't break it. Did you touch it? I touched it. You broke it. Don't touch it, at least not during this phase. You've asked the computer to do something. Stop micromanaging it. Get out of its way and let it do what you told it to do. It's that easy. How would you like it if someone did that to you? They tell you what to do, and then they just breathe down the back of your neck and watch you do it the whole time, and then start talking to you, distracting you, saying you're taking too long. But the more they tell you you're taking too long, it's going to take you longer because you have to answer them. You have to stop what you're doing, draw your attention away, deal with them, and then go back to what you were doing. You see what I'm getting at? Don't be that guy. So I did see the video card light up momentarily and then shut off again. So that tells me the BIOS update did something, and that causes the machine then to restart. That is normal. Don't question it. It's doing what we asked it to do. Leave it alone until it's done. The video card light, if I turn this, you can see the GeForce light just came on. And it may repeatedly turn off and back on again multiple times on a big BIOS update like this, or on a big motherboard that's complicated like this. So that's normal. All right, what do we got? It looks like it reset the BIOS in the process and forgot all of the previous settings we had in there. We detected a new processor, which will change the data structure of the storage space for the firmware TPM. If you did not apply the TPM function, okay, press Y to reset. Press N to keep the previous TPM record. Well, let's press N. I don't think we have to reset if you did not apply a new TPM. I guess it wouldn't matter either way. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I'll hit Y. And Windows should auto-adapt to that new TPM. If not, well, I guess we'll have something else to do during today's video besides updates. So I'm good either way. Anthony said he's got to take off. He's going to email me later. Well, thank you for popping in, Anthony. Always good to see you, my friend. And we'll talk later, of course. And Abdul said, I missed the statement here from Abdul. With his Super Chat contribution, he says, thank you for showing this build. Yeah, well, I mean, I had to do it anyway, right? I mean, it's been sitting. Business, as far as like any reviews or builds, has been very slow this year. And I think, well, I want to do a show on Wednesday. What could I do? This has been off to the side. I walk by it every day, and yet I don't see it. So I was, you know, kind of looking around the studio. The studio is so filled with everything, you can't see anything unless you're specifically. Think of it like being in a crowded room and you're hearing everybody in the room talk, but you can't make out any of the conversation. Unless you really focus in on something, and you might be able to make out what a couple people are saying out of the cacophony of all the other conversations. And so that's what happened. I've been walking by this and really not seeing it. And I thought, you know, we should do something with this. It's been a while. Also, with RAM costing what it costs now, I thought, what a great way to sort of flex. It's a stupid flex, but look, 512 gigs of RAM. How often do you see that these days? I think that's kind of a curse to have that much RAM, as you're seeing how long these boot times take, but I'm a practical guy. What do we got now? Please enter setup to recover BIOS. Oh, that's about RAID. We don't have it in RAID. F1 to run setup. You shouldn't need to do anything other than just save and exit. Save changes and reset. Let's see if that's all it needs. After a big BIOS update, it's pretty common for the BIOS to get reset back to defaults, even if it was at defaults before. Because certain settings within the BIOS configure during the boot up process, the training mode, and then it loses all that training and has to do the training all over again. So things like TPM, things like secure boot, things like, you know, whether or not you've changed the default settings from the hard drive from RAID mode or not RAID mode, if that option exists, or if the BIOS update made a change to the defaults prior. So usually after a big BIOS update, you want to just choose the optimized defaults, save and exit, and then go back one more time and make whatever, if any, changes that you've customized after that. Otherwise, usually just if you're not messing with the BIOS, then just loading the optimized defaults is a good habit to get into anytime you update BIOS in general. It's not necessarily something to consider with consumer grade equipment, like if you get a BIOS update on your Dell laptop or something, that should all be handled automatically for you. Slodko says, what about a BitLocker key? Yeah, well, you are warned anytime you update a BIOS on any computer, whether it's a laptop, a consumer computer, or a server, that if you are using BitLocker, it's a reminder that you will be needing to re-enter your BitLocker key. It's common knowledge to anybody that knows what BitLocker is. It's sort of like saying, hey, if you lock the door, you're going to have to unlock it. Now, if you're new to doors, you might go, oh, you do? I didn't know that. But if you're accustomed to doors, your response is probably, yeah, no duh. How dumb do you think I am? So to me, it doesn't need to be said. If it needs to be said, you probably shouldn't be using BitLocker. That's my opinion. It might sound a little snobby, but if you've got a piece of a tool, like some kind of a tool, a very complex and expensive tool, and you're not properly trained in how to use it, I don't think it should be, it's kind of irresponsible for that to be in your hands. If you have a gun and you don't know how it works, I think you need to put it down and get proper training. But that's just my opinion. Mr. Cowfood said, are cheap Windows keys a buy at your own risk story? They all are, except for the ones that I endorse. The ones I endorse are the ones that have no risk. You get 6 months of free support. If you go back to the very beginning of this video, I went through all of that information. So I think maybe you missed the start. Good news is you can rewind this video right now, right back to the beginning. Or you can wait till we're done today and then go back to the beginning and start over, see what everything that you missed. We've already talked about that before you were here. So, all right, let's go. Corey Man says, yeah, same with a car. Yeah, you have no business driving a car if you don't know what you're doing. If you don't know how to drive, learn how to drive first. All right, let's go to CPU-Z and let's see if our BIOS version reflects, what was 1801 or something? It was 1602. And there is a much newer version of CPU-Z, but for our intents and purposes, it doesn't really affect us. It's mostly for newer hardware, not older hardware. You want the newer version. Let's see, BIOS version 1801. Very good. Okay, let's go back to Windows Update. Let me also check, let's retry everything here. I want to go back to System and Notifications and make sure they didn't turn that stuff back on. Notification settings. Good, it left it off. I'm waiting for Microsoft to change that. So far, they're respecting our choices. So we'll also check advanced options and see if there's any. Yeah, there are a couple optional updates. We're going to grab those. Intel driver updates. Perfect. There's still maybe newer drivers at Intel's website if you want the latest, but these will be newer than what we have anyway. It looks like it's updating to 24.2003 and then updating to 24.4004. I don't know why, but that's Microsoft for you. It could restart right now, but I want to be courteous and allow this to finish. Since I asked it to do something, I don't want to interrupt it because, you know, as an end user, why don't I make up my mind? If I ask the computer to do something, why would I interrupt it while it's doing it? It's only doing what I asked it to do. So now I should have the courtesy, even though it's a computer, but it's really a courtesy to myself to get out of its way and let it finish the job I've assigned it before I restart it. If I restart it now, it probably won't hurt anything, but it just means it's going to start this all over again, and it's going to take even longer. So if you're too impatient to wait, then apparently you're patient enough to wait twice as long if you want to try and interrupt it. That's on you. I guess we can delete that BIOS we downloaded while we're waiting. I don't need it anymore, so we'll delete that. And we can also delete it off of the flash drive, so the flash drive is blank and can be used for any other purpose as a blank tool that I like to refer back to in future videos, and that's good to go. I can just pull the flash drive out and put it in the drawer. It's good to go for next time. I can also download the AMD Adrenalin driver at the same time. Say not now on that, because I'm in the middle of this. I don't want it to interrupt me. I didn't interrupt it. Download software, download drivers. We'll wait for that to finish. Should only take a second. Now we can restart. Okay. Mark Leibowitz said the BIOS update programs for most major brand desktops and laptops won't run if they detect BitLocker is turned on. What I have seen, I've never seen that, Mark. What I've seen is a big warning that says, we don't have any way to know if you've got BitLocker turned on. So if you're about to do this with BitLocker on, you better have your BitLocker key. Are you ready to proceed knowing these consequences? And I'm paraphrasing, but that's effectively what it says. Yes or no? I've never seen it do it any other way, unless you're referring to maybe the automatic BIOS updates that come in from Windows Update for like laptops like Dell and HP. That makes sense. But when we do it the way I've demonstrated today, it will ask you because it can't tell. It's not in Windows, it doesn't know. It's BitLocker is not a BIOS setting. BitLocker is a Windows setting. So when you enter the BIOS, you're not in Windows, and the BIOS has no way to look at Windows to see if you've turned that feature on in Windows or not. So it has to ask the end user. And it'll say, if you don't know, then don't do this. Just answer no and stop the BIOS update. Find a qualified individual to help you. John Lewis says you might mention that it's for sale. Well, this thing's been for sale since we've had it. Nobody's got any money right now, so we'll just hold on to it indefinitely until something happens. That's all I can do. I'm not going to mail this thing. You've got to be in Phoenix. You've got to pick this up locally. You need a forklift to ship this, and it would likely get damaged in shipping, which is the whole reason we wound up with it. Okay, so I'm not shipping it outside of Phoenix. If somebody wants to drive to Phoenix and pick it up, let's talk. But I don't know anybody who, if their business is that important, would buy a used computer. Or if they're just wanting one for fun, finding somebody that has that kind of money is very difficult to spend that money for fun. They're out there, but I don't know how to locate them. It's definitely not Craigslist or Facebook. I'll tell you that. All right, so we're back up to the desktop. Let's go back to, well, before I go to Windows Update, let's go ahead and run the AMD Adrenalin software, because that's probably going to make a performance difference. Almost everything I show on this channel is for sale, just so you know. Let me get rid of camera 1 so I can see everything. Looks like we're getting a new AMD chipset that's critical to performance, reliability, and security. Absolutely critical. And you know, so many people bring me their computers that have never done the updates for the chipset drivers. Ever. They didn't know, and it's not happening automatically for them. And so often what I hear from them when they get the computer back from the repair is it's never run this fast before. Now, admittedly, this has been a slow year for that kind of thing, but that was pretty routine. Right from, well, since chipset drivers came out. Consumers don't know what they are. They don't know they're supposed to be updated. So that's why Windows has stepped up Windows Update, and consumers, they don't take care of things. There's plenty of cars that come in because the consumer never changed the oil. Brand new car, its engine's completely fried. Consumer says, you're supposed to change the oil? There's videos online of people trying to figure out where they put the gas in their Teslas. Are those real videos? I don't know. They look real. The person is either a really great actor, or, you know, it's a genuine, like, bring out the camera, you got to film this. Look at this person in front of us. Got the gas pump in their hand, and they're walking around the car trying to figure out where it goes. There's plenty of videos of people locking themselves out of their Teslas or their electric vehicles. They don't know they have a spare key in the key fob for a lot of cars. They don't know. They don't know how to get the key out of the key fob, so they end up breaking. Once they're told you got to get the key out of the key fob, instead of like using their phone that they use to find out there's a key, they don't use their phone to figure out how to get the key out. It's like their brains go into some sort of prehistoric panic mode, and they smash the fob open to get the key out. This is your average person. How they have that kind of money to buy that high end of a car, I just don't understand. So just because somebody's got a lot of money doesn't mean they're smarter than you. They may not have understood what they bought. And there's evidence of it on YouTube over and over and over, over and over and over and over again. There's a great YouTube channel, I think it's Roadrunner Rescue or something, and this lady's a vehicle service. I suppose if you had AAA or something, she would be like somebody that gets the call to either change your flat tire for you, or to give you a jump start, or even do a battery swap, unlock your car if you've locked your keys in your car. She can open your doors for you, and she can bring you some gas. That's pretty much what she does. It's like roadside rescue stuff. And what she's using to jumpstart the car is a $45 or $50 jump box that you can just go buy at Amazon. Do it yourself, but people don't know. Sometimes people are like, what is that thing? And she tells them, oh, I want to buy one of those. And she's like, yeah, you totally should. In the meantime, she's still paid for the service call the same. So, all right, so the AMD driver's in there. Let's go back to Windows Update now. Yeah, being able to jumpstart your own car, no jumper cables, and you don't need help from anybody, just do it yourself. You'll be back up on the road faster than any, waiting for a tow truck to do it or hoping for a nice person with jumper cables to help you. Jim Kenny says, it's too bad you only sell in the United States. I live 5 miles north of the United States. Well, if you can imagine what the tariffs would be on this, what Canada would charge you just to bring this into the country, would probably be very discouraging for you. And that assumes it even arrives unbroken. If it were to be damaged, you would never know until after you paid the ransom your government's going to charge you to release it. And then once they release the hostage, once you paid the ransom money, you might realize the hostage is dead. You understand why I don't sell 5 miles north of the border? This is not your fault. It's just the way, between the shipping damage potential and then the added fees. You've already paid for shipping, you paid for the computer, and you think you're done paying? No, you got to pay your government. That's between you and your government. It has nothing to do with me. I can't even tell you what the charge is going to be. You have to wait till it arrives, and then you'll be contacted. You've got 30 days to pay the ransom, or they return it back to me. And if it wasn't damaged when I sent it to you, it could be damaged in shipping when it's returned to me. So I won't get any refund on the shipping, and the likelihood for damage just increased twofold. So I hope you understand that that's not an ideal situation to even get myself involved in, unless I'm just trying to steal from you and say, good luck, buddy, you're on your own. Which, I don't run my business that way. That looks good. And driver update for NVIDIA. Go ahead and install that now. Gary Tatum says, I love my jump box. I also keep a DeWalt tire pump as well. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how good a tire pump is going to do you. If you got a flat tire, the hole's still in it. You can fill it with air all day. It's just going to keep leaking. So to me, personally, I don't see any point in it. I just make sure that I have a spare. Or, if you have a BMW or something like that, you probably have run flat tires, which also negates any need for that. But, they do sell some amazing tire inflators that are battery charged. You don't even have to plug them into your cigarette lighter or your 12-volt plug, they call them nowadays. Jim Kenny said, I understand about not shipping to Canada. I wish it was different. You don't think I do? Believe me, I'm behind you 100% in agreement. Not good for either one of us. The Mopar nerd says, I saw in the system profile it needs to be activated. I wonder if it lost its activation. It's possible. Sometimes a BIOS update can trigger that, but I suppose we can just check. Sometimes it just takes a minute for it to reestablish online. Activation, not active. So then the question is it because the product key is missing, or is it because we changed something? I'm trying to remember if I ever activated this computer. Remember, activation is 100% optional. You don't have to activate Windows 11. It doesn't prevent Windows 11 from working. It doesn't hold Windows 11 back from performance or security or updates. All the activation does is allow you to change the wallpaper and make personalization changes, but no operational changes are affected by activation. So maybe I never activated it. Either way, now that you brought it to my attention, I'll After the show, I'll just go buy a key. I'll buy a Windows 10 Pro key because they're a little cheaper, and it's still a free upgrade to Windows 11. So Windows 11 Pro and Windows 10 Pro use the same keys. So if a Windows 11 Pro key is $3 more, why spend the extra $3 if they both use the same keys? Just put the Windows 10 Pro key in. And as long as Microsoft is continuing to allow that free upgrade, why spend the extra $3? You can tell I don't make a commission on this, right? I want you to buy the cheap thing. That's what I'm going to do. But I appreciate you pointing that out. For me, it's more of an OCD thing about activating it. I honestly, it doesn't matter to me if it's activated. I couldn't even tell. Now, usually you will eventually get a watermark or something on the screen, but I'm not getting it. So, no idea why that. If it was activated and it lost activation because of the BIOS update, it's possible, although highly unlikely. But again, I can buy a Windows 10 Pro product key 15 times, 10 to 15 times, depending on the exchange rate from the US dollar to what they're charging at VIP-URCDKEYs before I would reach the price of buying the key directly from Microsoft here in America. It's about $200. So if I have to buy it again, it's not a big deal. If I did buy it from VIP-URCDKEYs to begin with and I had activated it, I can always reach out to their support. So even though they say it's 6 months of free support, we've been much longer than that, obviously. It's at their discretion. At that point, they might help you out. I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. It's also like $15, so it's not like a big deal. Okay, so we got Windows updates done. We've got the NVIDIA driver updated. Let's go to disk cleanup. Let's clean up all those updates because they're taking up space. Good here, we'll free that space up. Now, if you're curious what a machine like this does on Cinebench, we could throw it on there. I don't think I've got a screenshot of results, do I? I just have a screenshot of the Crystal disk mark on that Western Digital Gen 4 drive, which is running. Same as any other computer with this drive in it. So I guess while we're waiting, I'll just grab my utilities flash drive here. Pull over the new CPU-Z while we're at it. And Uncle Carrie's Windows 11 Optimizer. VLC probably needs to be, I'll bet you that's an old copy of VLC, so let's just assume it is and put the new one on there while we're here. I don't even have to copy it over. And then finally we'll bring over Cinebench. I restructured my flash drive. I used to have subfolders for testing, and I realized times have changed. Time to change the format of the flash drive to accommodate the changing times, to be more efficient and free up some space. And if things change again, maybe I'll end up segregating that stuff again. But for now, if you notice it looks a little different, that's on purpose. All right, we'll let that finish. Did I put the PC Manager on here? I did. So I'll run boost. This is free for Microsoft. Microsoft PC Manager, just type it down here and you get it for free. If you're in another country and it doesn't let you get it because of the GDPR stuff, just go into your region settings and change it to US. Then go and download it, install it, and put your region settings back to the way they were. Such hackers. Do 2 disk cleanups at the same time. That was quick. And make sure that Smart Boost is turned on. Should be on. It is. Very good. Love multitasking, man. So we'll let that run, and then when that's done, we can run Cinebench and get some. Actually, we could probably do Cinebench right now. I don't have to wait. We can multitask it. Let's bring up hardware info first. Did I not copy hardware info over? There's the old CPU-Z. Delete that. Go back over to the flash drive and grab HWI. Here. There we go. All right, let me pull the flash drive. I don't need that anymore. Hardware info. See, once we're in Windows, things start really getting snappy. It's just that boot up time that takes a while. And that's par for the course on a server. That's pretty much the way every server works. If somebody says they have a server and it boots fast, that's not a server. They're just calling it a server. All right, let's go back to all of our... How many cores do we have? Will it even fit on the screen? I cannot fit all these cores on the screen. Have you ever seen that problem before? Look at this. There's core 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 40, 50, core 60, 61, 62, 63. So it starts at 0. That means there's 64 cores. And it's nice and cool. It's running in the 40s, which is fantastic. Ooh-wee. That's a good problem to have, isn't it? All right, let's get over to Cinebench. Let's fire up this bad boy. We'll torture it. Let it clean up system files in the background. We're monitoring temps while running a multi-core performance benchmark. And I should probably move camera 1 out of the way so you can see. I'll put it over here. And then go back over here. And if you didn't get to see the enjoyment of me scrolling down this list because my camera was in the way, you can see I cannot put all these cores will not fit on the screen. See, if I go to the last core, the first core I see is number 10, so there's still 10 more above. So if I go to core 1, actually, the normal place I stop is right up here. It only takes us a little bit past halfway to the number of cores we've got. But I want to see the maximum temperatures. And you see, look how cool this is running. It's a really good liquid cooler on here. And that's the one it came with. That was not damaged in shipping. Coreyman said, we have 224 cores on our servers at work. Yeah, things have changed since the CPU, the 3995WX, came out a few years ago. "66 Racers asking questions that we detail in our video notes." If you just click on the video notes below this video, the answers to your questions are all there. That's why we put them there. Look how fast that's moving. I don't think we've shown a computer where Cinebench processes this quickly ever, other than when we were testing this last time we had it on screen. Vegaman said it must have been activated because you changed the wallpaper. Oh, that's a good point, Vegaman. You're right. It must have lost the activation for some reason. Sometimes the solution is to just wait a day and see if the activation comes back by itself. Again, humans being impatient is the #1 cause of computer problems in my line of work. It's always, not always, it's most common caused by the human. So when we can fix the humans, we can reduce the number of problems, and then I probably have to find a new job because I won't make enough money to survive a career. Pros and cons. So if somebody wanted to just go and buy another key just to make it right, because it bothers them, that's a psychological problem. It's not a technical one. Being patient and making sure the problem sustains for a day or two or three, there's no hurry on the activation key. Just to establish, is this coming back the strange way it went away? Will it just strangely come back again? It's entirely possible, but you need to wait and see. But if it's only 15 bucks and it's bothering you mentally, it's worth the 15 bucks for your peace of mind. Spend it and get it over with. It won't cause any harm. And he said, I've never seen Cinebench look like that. That's impressive, isn't it? Remember, that has nothing to do with our graphics card. This is strictly a CPU test. I know some people think we're testing graphics here, but that's not what this is. This is all being done with the CPU, just so we're clear. Which graphics card, if it's a 3090 or if it's some basic, it won't make any difference to what you're seeing here. This is strictly, I can't emphasize this enough, a CPU benchmark only. The graphics card has no impact on the results of this test. VX says, now here I was thinking my X99 computer system, which has an i7 5960X, is still a powerhouse from its golden days in 2015. It cost me an arm and a leg, so I'm still getting my penny's worth out of it, as you should. And by the way, you don't have to be the biggest kid on the block. You don't have to measure yourself against other people. I've learned in life, there's always somebody better and there's always somebody worse. You will likely never be the tallest or the shortest or the weakest or the strongest or the thinnest or the fattest or the nicest or the meanest. Get used to it. As long as you're happy, find your happiness. Don't worry about what other people have or stuff like that. It's mentally the best thing you can do for yourself. '66 Racer says 512 gig of DDR5 ECC is probably about $25,000. This is DDR4, and it's probably worth, I don't know, $4,000 maybe, just for the RAM. Maybe. That might be a little bit much. But yeah, if it was DDR5, it'd be worth a lot more. The system today is worth somewhere around, remember it's used, right? If you're comparing to new prices, it's probably worth around $8,000. That would be my guess. When we originally fixed it, we put $3,000 into it. We have a new motherboard that was $2,000 brand new. We bought a refurbished 3090 for $900, which I believe is 24 gigs of RAM in it. We put a 4 terabyte Western Digital drive in there, which today is probably $700. We put one other thing, motherboard, graphic. The motherboard and the graphics card, oh, the case. The case that it was in was completely demolished. It was warped, bent out of shape. And this case is about a $200 some odd case today. But bequiet had sent us the case for free to review it. So that's what we have into it. '66 Racer says, yeah, but if somebody wanted to build this today with modern parts, it probably cost 25 grand. Yeah, you're probably right. But they'd have a more powerful CPU. They'd have a faster system. But it doesn't help that the price of RAM and storage also has gone up significantly. But it always was expensive. It's never been cheap. Even in the best of times, it wasn't cheap. Hopefully, we're going to get a score here, and then that'll wrap it up for today's video. We've been on now about 2 hours and 10 minutes, so that'll probably wrap it up for the day. If you have any other questions for me or other things you want to discuss, this is the time to speak up. If you don't, I assume you have nothing to say. And I'm telling you, I have nothing left to say. So I'll end up changing the BIOS battery later. I'm not in the mood to do it right now. I'm going to need to put the system on its back so the video card doesn't fall out. It'll be easier to take the video card out that way, and you won't be able to see anything. So there's no sense doing that on camera. I'm sure that BIOS battery is bad. And I've got spare BIOS batteries to just pop it in and put the video card back in and hook the power back up. And that's a pretty easy thing. I'll do that after the show. And then I'll probably check it tomorrow and see if my activation comes back, or, you know, maybe I'll just buy a key from VIP-URCDKEY since they promote us here. If I have any excuse to sort of return the love, why shouldn't I? It helps build good rapport, but why should I buy keys if I don't need them just to show good rapport? It's not like it's a big investment for me, and it can happen, but it can also just come back if you wait. So in my scenario, it may be a good excuse to show a little love over there to our friends at VIP-URCDKEYs, whether I need to or not. And I'll make that decision probably tomorrow. I'll just see if it reactivates automatically tomorrow. No big deal. Either way, it's fine. Jim Kinney says, Kerry, you're right. It's $5,234.49. He must be talking about the RAM. John Williams says, thanks, Kerry. You're always entertaining on your live streams. You're the best. Oh, thank you for buttering me up, John. Bring it on. It never gets old. What's our score? I think we have a score up here. I know Andy pays attention to these scores. What do you think, Andy? We have a score of 57,574. Now, on the single core, I don't expect it to really shine. I'll run it anyway. But what do you think, Andy? And what was their max temps? We hit darn near 90 degrees Celsius, which is really, really good. And what's interesting is that's the package. So if you look at the actual cores, none of the cores exceeded 71.1, I think is, oh no, there's 72. Is there anything higher than 72? 72.8, we'll round that to 73. Are you not impressed? And even here, looking at the CCD, that's the whole die complex, at 89.2, that's really damn good. Damn good when you look at that performance. That is, that's something I love to show live, because a lot of people would be like, there's no way. Yeah, well, explain it then. You just saw it live, unedited and unscripted. I can't control the outcome. The Mopar Nerd says, I usually never get to watch. I'm usually dealing with customers' cars. He got out of IT about 9 years ago, and he became a Mopar He says, tech, mechanic, right? I work on other cars, but my bread and butter is Mopar. Well, good, you can fix my Dodge Challenger. My AC doesn't work. We put, it takes that 1234 YF, put a can in there, pressure went up, system ran great for about 3 months. Now the pressure's gone again. Put leak detector in it, can't find any leaks. Charged it up again, nothing. And it's interesting because the driver's side will get cold and the passenger side won't get cold at all. But then when it was fully charged up, both sides got cold. But as it was losing charge, I guess it was passenger side would go first, and then the driver's side would go. Maybe it's a blend door or something, you know, and I plug a OBD2 on there, and no, blend door's opening and closing according to the OBD2 computer. So I'm like, all right, I think it's got to go to a mechanic, and I think that mechanic is going to say I need a new AC, and I bet you that's going to be about $2,000. So I've been driving with the windows down and 108 degrees temperature. I'm getting too old for that stuff, man. Good car, though. Barry says, keep running that test, and you'll have to open your doors and windows to get some cool air in. It's not cool air. Oh, and this test in here, and I'll have to open doors. Well, maybe. Yeah. Check the valve core on the charge inlets. We replaced both of the valves on the hot and cold side, and the O-rings. So anyway, I went on Amazon and I bought a can of stop leak, because I figured if they got to replace the AC unit, which is what I'm predicting, if the stop leak ruins the unit, at least I went out with a bang. So I've probably spent $200 over the last 18 months to fix this myself, only to end up having to pay what it's going to cost anyway, when I could have just paid that 18 months ago and been done with it and been enjoying my AC. So why pay a professional when you can do it yourself and spend more money and have it take a lot longer? I mean, I did everything else. I mean, I had to change a headlight, and my sunglass holder broke, and so I pulled that down and realized there's a plastic piece that broke, and I took a little picture hanging nail and drilled a hole and shoved it in there and used some hot melt glue, and now my little sunglass door opens and closes, and you never know I fixed it. That was $100 to replace it, or free for me to do it myself. What else did I fix on this car? Oil change on the Challenger is super easy. I can't believe how easy they made it. But you know, there's a certain amount of work that I'm comfortable with, and I thought I'd try the AC if it was something simple. And 18 months later, by the time I get it fixed, it'll be wintertime and I won't need it. You watch. Well, it can happen. It's not a Chrysler thing. It's just luck of the draw. BX4716 says the only thing he's replaced in 10 years on his computer is the power supply and graphics card. They had both died within a week of each other, and he did an SSD upgrade about 4 years ago when he launched a game. The PC would reboot itself. What motor? The 3.6 do they have? Yeah, it's the SXT. It's the 6-cylinder 3.6. I'm a 6-cylinder guy, man. I don't know what it is about me. I don't like 4s and I don't like 8s. The 8s are too gas hungry, and the 4s are too anemic. So I don't like the sound of it. Like, they have a 300 horsepower 4-cylinder in the Mustang, and it sounds like a lawnmower. And even though it's slightly more power on that turbo 4-cylinder Mustang than the 6-cylinder Mustang that's naturally aspirated, I still want the 6. I don't like the way that 4 sounds. I don't like that high revving RPM. It sounds like one of those little Hondas or Husqvarnas or whatever they're called, those F1 cars that rev to 10,000 RPM. I don't like it. I did find it acceptable in the Mini Cooper, but it took me a long time to get used to it. those revs, you know, getting up past 3,000. No, I'm sorry, up to past. You get up to around 5,000 for good shift points on it, and that's so uncomfortable listening to the engine scream like that. And that's not even at redline. I think redline was at 7,000 or 6,500 or something. And it took me about a year, and then it didn't make me cringe anymore. It made me smile. But then going back to the V6 again, I was like, oh, this is just me all day, you know. My Chevy Blazer was a V6. My Mustang was a V6. The Challenger's a V6. And it all is rear wheel drive. The only exception, again, is that Mini Cooper. What can I say? I'm from Detroit. I'm an old school, you know, car guy. But not so old school like my father's generation, where it was a 110 horsepower V8 that got 8 miles to the gallon. Nope, but it's in my blood. I can't help it. I gotta have that V6, man. I'm getting too old to not have air conditioning, I'll tell you what. Even at nighttime, it's over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Gunnar says, do you prefer URCDKEY over CDK deals? I don't use either one of them. I use VIP, what's it called? Now you got me all confused because we've had to change it a couple times. URCDKEY deals, right? Isn't that what it is? What I say, the one I recommend in the video, oddly enough, to answer your question, is the one I use. VIP-URCDKEYs. Yeah. That's why I keep talking about it, because I like it. It's what I use. Sorry if that created any confusion or if I left you guessing. I thought I was pretty clear about it. 66 Racer says, I got a lot of memories of summers without air conditioning in my Mustang, but I was 18 years old then. Yeah, when I was 18 years old, my car didn't have air conditioning either. I had a 1970 AMC Hornet. When I was 16 years old, I was driving a 14-year-old car. Think about that. Bajan Guy says this server today would be at about $16,000 brand new at today's prices. There he goes. Andy provides us with that VIP-URCDKEY. Thank you, Andy. Yeah, but you know, I'm 58 years old now, and I tell you what, that heat, the summers are getting hotter. Thankfully, it doesn't rain very often. Can you imagine if I had to drive that car with no air conditioning and a hot night, let's say, or even a hot day, and it's raining? So I guess I'll be getting wet. If I don't roll the windows down, then I'll just sweat and get wet that way. If I do roll the windows down, you better hope nobody drives next to me and splashes a puddle and it all comes into the car. Yeah, I'm getting too old for that. So I will take the car in. I think I've given up on it. The last time I charged it and I put the stop leak in it, at $55 for that can. And I did it myself, and it's got a good, you know, it's in the green, everything looks good, and it just blows hot air. I don't know. Could be something simple like a fuse that's, you know, creating the, not activating the clutch. But I know better than that. I'm sure it's going to be, let me put it to you this way. If I take it to the mechanic, and the mechanic says all it needs is a fuse, I will be delighted. And then I'm going to kick myself in the ass for not taking it there 18 months ago, trying to save money. But I've been through this with other cars, so I've got some PTSD, and I think I know what the mechanic's going to tell me. And I'm not ready to take that kind of a hit. David Graham said, would you give a pizza delivery driver a piece of your mind if he kept forgetting your pop? I don't order food delivery. So if I order food delivery, I know the food's gonna not be hot. If there's any mistake in the order, what am I gonna do to return it? You know, I want to eat when I'm hungry. I don't want to eat an hour or 2 hours after I'm hungry. I'll get in the car and go get it. And if I forget the soda, that's on me. Also, I don't want to pay a delivery driver when I can just get in the car. I have to push a gas pedal, I have to push a brake pedal, and I have to steer a wheel. How hard is that? Really? What's the big deal? And they only deliver within a small radius, so you know it's not coming from far away. And I'll get it to my house faster while it's still hot without, well, being able to double check my order. I'll open the pizza box, I look at it. Is this my pizza? Looks like my pizza most of the time, but that's when you want to know before it leaves the store. Did I forget anything? That's on me now. There's an old expression, David, if you want something done right, do it yourself. So if you delegate that out to somebody and they screw it up, is the fault on you or is the fault on them? One could say you used bad judgment, but on the other hand, if they did not complete the arrangement that was agreed upon, no matter how angry you get, that soda will not magically appear. So if you say, hey, you forgot my soda, and you start chewing them out, do you think he did it on purpose? What's going through your mind? Do you think the delivery driver's like, I'm going to mess with this guy. It's going to be funny. First of all, I'm going to make him wait for his food. And then when I do finally show up, I'm going to tell him I forgot his soda. Isn't that going to be funny? He made a mistake. You don't make mistakes? Give the guy a break. Because what's in it for you? You want to yell and piss the guy off so that when he does go and get your soda, he shakes it up when you're not seeing. So when you open it, he goes, ah, that's what you get for being a jerk. So I made a mistake. It's called crying over spilled milk. Get over it or go get it yourself. That's what I would suggest, because for you, it's healthier for you, in my opinion, to not be manipulated by other people. So if you're allowing other people to take your happiness from you or to take your peace of mind from you, then you are consenting to that. And I'm telling you, stop consenting to being manipulated by other people and hold on to your happiness with both hands as tight as you can, and don't let anybody take it from you. Because how you choose to respond is usually a lot more impactful than what you're responding to. 10% of your life is what happens, and 90% of your life is how you choose to react to it. Attitude is everything. Kill them with kindness. That's what I would do. Now, if somebody did it on purpose, like every single time I order from you guys, you always forget my soda, I think you're doing it on purpose now. I'm never going to order from you ever again. I don't twist my arm. There's plenty of other places that sell pizza. No big deal. Or I'll just come and get it from now on. Either way. Not going to change the flow of the river by myself, but nature is a bigger beast than man can conquer. That's nature, okay? Accept it, adapt, and be happy. Don't let your happiness fall on somebody else. That's on you. And if somebody is causing you to lose your grip on happiness, first of all, did they do it on purpose? And second of all, what can be done to avoid that in the future? Proceed accordingly. That's my advice. I don't know how much you think a thing of soda is worth, but at last I checked, you cannot go to Walmart and go buy happiness. You cannot buy peace of mind. There's no aisle for that. That's on you, and it's your choice. It takes as much mental energy to be accepting as it does to be judgmental. So if you have a choice that both takes the same amount of energy, and one is easier on your mental state of health than the other one, why would you choose the other one voluntarily? Why would you make that choice? I don't understand. What's in it for you? You just want to make yourself angry? Because you're the one doing it, not them. Nobody can make you angry. You're choosing to react that way. You're choosing to respond. It's like you're a puppet and they're manipulating you. And if you don't mind that, go for it. But I don't let people manipulate me. Or if I'm, if I start taking the bait and I realize I'm doing it, I stop. You can't force me to participate in a game I don't want to play. I'll walk away. It's a lot easier to just walk away. People are often more appreciative when they make a mistake. I had a gentleman pounding on the door. Pound, 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 pound. Can I help you? Your house is on fire. Your house is on fire. Get everybody out. That's the barbecue grill smoke you're seeing. What? Yeah, no, you're seeing barbecue smoke. I'm barbecuing. You come around the side of the house. I'll take you to the backyard. I'll show you. Unless you know something I don't know. And he looks and he's like, I swear I could see that tree on fire. I go, listen, I really appreciate that you were looking out. Don't apologize for it. Thank you. But yeah, there's no fire here. That guy thought he was going to rush into the house. I mean, if the door wasn't locked, he was going to come into the house. He thought people's lives were in danger. I'm not going to yell at him. His intentions were pure. He could have just driven by and said nothing if it really was a fire, and he chose to stop. I'm not mad at him for it. But thank you. But misunderstanding, you can see nothing's on fire. It's just the smoke from the grill. Never happened before. No one's ever done that. So the one person that's ever done that in my life, you think I'm going to yell at him? No, I'll say thank you. All right. We got our final score. Yeah, just 1247. Not impressive. So the whole point of a Threadripper is they have threads to rip, right? And there's no thread there. It's one thread. So it's not going to wow you. But on the other hand, if you're only using one thread on a Threadripper, I don't think you bought the right thing, or you don't understand what you bought. No surprising. Not surprising. Let's go to take a screenshot of this. Let me see if I can get the mouse off of here. And let's see, print screen, and I want to save these results to the desktop. It was Patch Tuesday yesterday, guys, so there were some big updates that improved Windows performance, especially on less amounts of RAM. You might notice your computer's a little peppier than it was. If you haven't gotten the updates yet, they're probably waiting, and they'll happen on their own, or you can go to Windows Update and force it if you want to. But it can take, as much as an hour to get those updates installed, depending on your internet connection and the speed of your machine. So again, if you tell the computer to do that, get out of its way and let it finish. Now, you can still use the computer while Windows updates are running. You don't have to sit there and, oops, I didn't mean to put that in there. But you don't, hold on a second, did I save it to the desktop? Cinebench. R23.jpg. There, let's try that. Then we should be able to close this, close this, close that, close that. There they are. There's our results. So I'll have them for next time. If we wait 14 more months before we turn it on, I'll have some record that I did something. And then my optimizing tool, how is that looking? And the disk cleanup finished in the background, remember? This will probably verify we're not activated too. Yeah, Windows activation, secure booter off. I'm going to hit optimize all and restart. I think the optimizer was updated from 14 months ago when we did this originally. So there's probably some tweaks in the optimizer that we didn't have back then, which is why some of those items might have not been enabled, as they weren't part of the original optimizer, and they are now. Mikeman says, I'll see how the updates do on my PC tomorrow with lesser amount of RAM. Yeah, you should notice it's a little snappier. And Microsoft is continuing throughout the rest of this year to, or at least by 26H2, they're trying to get all of these improvements because of the RAM shortages and everything. They're focusing more on the customer experience finally, but it will take some time. So we're starting to see that trickle in now. Dustin Fuller says, great stream as always. Thank you, Dustin. David Graham said, I rarely get upset. Well, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with asking the delivery driver, like, where's my soda? And the delivery driver will feel probably bad about it. You don't need to make them feel any worse. And then say, well, what can we do to make this right? And they might offer you a refund or offer to bring you back the soda. But if they've got other work to do, they may not have time to just go get you a soda and come back. They may have somebody else waiting for their food, and they're going to say, why did my food take so long? Now you've got another customer complaining. So then you probably have to wait longer for that other delivery to happen. And then on the way back, bring your soda to you. What else do you want them to do? Jim Kenny says, I've got no migraines today. That's good. All right, we are all set here. So let me get rid of camera 1 for a second. So my work off camera will be to monitor this activation or just buy a key and to change that BIOS battery out. Shut this down. We're done for today, and I'm glad this thing still works. You never know when things have been sitting if they're going to fire up okay. So I just wanted to check in on it. It does get pretty warm back here. I feel some hot air coming out of the graphics card and the rear case fan, but nothing too terrible. More than I'm used to on a mini PC. There you go. Hey, there's more time saying hello right here at the end. Good to see you, my friend, but unfortunately we're right at the end of the video, so we're going to wrap it up for today. I want to thank our friend Buster and our friend Mark Gaines for the contributions during the show. Thanks to everybody in green for supporting us here so we can continue this madness. And everybody who's joined us, hanging out in the chat, it's been a pleasure having you hang out and chatting with us and interacting with each other. I hope that you will join us on Friday. We are back. We're live every Friday and every Sunday at 1 o'clock Phoenix time. On Saturdays, it's a good time to check out our friend Doug Betts, Live Windows Training with Doug Betts, that does live interactions like this with computer repair. And then after Doug Betts, almost immediately, Mike's Unboxing in England starts his live interaction show on Saturdays. You know that's where I'll be. And maybe we'll bump into each other there as well. So all week long, there's content to watch with technology, and other channels, of course, broadcasting their normal schedules that aren't necessarily live. But I'm always here Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays, and then Mondays are reserved for all our members in green to join us for their content. That's for them only. And if you want to see that kind of content, support us. It's my way of showing thank you. And that's that support that pays for all this to happen, because YouTube... By the way, to be a YouTube content creator today, you need 4,000 hours of watch time in 1 year, in 365 days. You have to upload at least no less than 3 videos every 90 days. And you need at least 1,000 subscribers. Starting February 2nd, you'll need 8,000 hours of watch time in 365 days. Still 1,000 subscribers, that's not changing. But people just starting out who want to make money being a content creator, I think you might be a little late to the game unless you can ramp up in the next 6 months. If you can get in under the current 4,000 hour watch time requirement, you're golden. So let's say you've got 4,100 watch hours on February 1st, but on February 2nd it says now you need 8,000, you're grandfathered in, you're good. But if you don't have 4,000 watch hours before February 2nd, now your goal just got twice as far away. So on the one hand, I think it's good. On the other hand, I think it's bad. The good side is all these people making all this AI crap just so they can earn money the easy way. It's going to make it harder for them and more discouraging. For people who want to make YouTube videos for fun, make them for fun. My videos were made for fun for a year before I established enough watch hours to turn on monetization. I think that's normal. Expect to go for free for a year. I don't think that's changing personally. If you can't self-finance it for a year, don't plan on monetizing and just do it for fun. If you want to make a career out of it, you got to post regularly for 1 year before you'll expect to make $20. And it starts there. And once you start, then you keep going. It starts to build. On the other hand, YouTube keeps making videos views worth less and less. So then you got to put out twice as much to earn, what you were earning. And that's just the nature of the beast. But once you've got that monetization turned on, you could sell sponsorships. Well, you could do that without the monetization. You could sell memberships. You can do super chats. You can't do any of that without monetization first. You're basically doing it for fun. So if you want to do it for fun, nothing's changing for you. If you want to do it to make money, plan on doing it for free for a year. That would be my advice. That's what I did. In 2009, my first video went up. I didn't get monetization until a year later. Okay, just so you know. David Graham says it takes a year to make money. That would be not a lot of money, but that would at least start the ball, getting you your first paycheck. Yeah. If you post regularly, meaning at least 1 or 2 videos a month for a year, you will probably, unless you're making shorts videos, but if you're making long form content like I do, you don't watching videos to achieve that amount of watch hours. If you're making little 90-second short videos, you need millions of, literally. On shorts, you used to need 10 million shorts views to earn revenue, and now I think it's 20, or it's going to be 20 million, if I'm not mistaken, on February 2nd that takes effect. But that also means there's more money in the pot to distribute to people who qualify, so that maybe payments will go up. Ha ha! You think that's going to happen? But yeah, if you've got a pot of money and everybody's qualifying for a piece of it, every piece everybody gets is smaller. So in that way, it may be good. So there's good side, bad side. We'll see how it shakes out, but I'm sure it's only going to get worse. Then the next thing will be probably 10,000 or 12,000 hours of watch time. But if you get in under the wire, you're grandfathered in. Anyway. VX4716 said, I have been watching your presentations at computer clubs. Do you still make those? No, I don't. I don't, because the pandemic put an end to that. You've got a bunch of older retired people who may be immunocompromised, and it's not worth it to risk people's lives to just talk about computers. When that happened, everybody sort of went online and they would do their computer clubs with videos. But then people realized, I don't need a computer club to watch computer videos. I can go on YouTube whenever I want. I don't have to, schedule a video Tuesday at 7 p.m. on the 3rd Tuesday of the month when the computer club meets, because it's not really meeting. And if you're not there, you could always watch the computer club meeting later, versus before, if you weren't there, you missed it, you had to be there. The result of that is now a lot of people have also shifted away from computers. A lot of these people that would go to the computer clubs did so they can get on social media, see the news at their town they grew up in, or if they're snowbirds, the town back home. And they realize they can do all that on their phones now, and they can take it with them. They don't have to wait till they're at home. They can always, you could be anywhere. Your wife is shopping and you're sitting on the bench in the mall. I'll check my email. So the use case of computers for this kind of an end user has gone away with the advent of internet everywhere in your pocket. And with COVID and the pandemic sort of being a nail into that coffin, that it's never come back. That was pretty much it. So those days are done, and we move forward and evolve, and we can look fondly back at that. There may be a couple computer clubs still around, but they probably won't be around for give it another 5 years, they'll probably be gone. And so things change. You know, a lot of people used to have horse stables. They were everywhere. Anything involving horses made you a lot of money. Horse feed, stock cleaning. But then the automobile came around, and within a matter of a few years, generations of people that worked in that industry was gone. It was all dried up. There are still horse stables today, but they're not used very often by the common person. You know, take New York City before the invention of the car. New York City smelled like manure. You couldn't get away from it. That was just living in the city. Any big city stunk. It wasn't healthy. It wasn't pleasant, but that's all we had. When Henry Ford made the Model T available and affordable to anybody pretty much could buy a car, within 5 years, that entire industry was 90% wiped out. Hundreds of years of industry wiped out in 5 years. So we're just seeing that again, and such is the way with blacksmiths, et cetera, et cetera. Welcome to life, you know, it's progress. John Lewis says, why do I have a crown next to my name? Those usually indicate your status as a participant. You're like a #1 fan. It's not that you're just here, it's that you're communicating, you're participating. Your level of participation compared to others gives you a #1. Andy would be #2. David Graham would be #3. And that gives you what they call XP, or I guess experience points. We don't do anything with it. It's YouTube manipulating people to participate with a reward. To me, the participation is the reward. What do I know? I mean, I'm not YouTube. That's a YouTube thing. That's not a Carrie thing. But that's something YouTube started to do to try to encourage participation. David Graham said COVID is still out there. Well, that's true. However, you don't really see people preparing and being cautious in the sheer numbers that they were back when the media coverage on it was big and the hospitals were full. You know, West Nile virus, you know, here in Phoenix, we get more infections from mosquito bites of West Nile virus than I think anywhere else in the United States, but the media doesn't talk about it. So people are walking around, ignorance is bliss, you know what I mean? And some people drive with a mask on when they're in the car with the windows rolled up. Who's that for? So people's behavior is quite entertaining to people watch, because the psychological effects of the media affect human behavior. So while COVID never went away, it's also not as rampant, and so it's not really as likely to affect you as it was. That doesn't mean you shouldn't take proper precautions. But, you know, again, the media manipulates the public. The public seems to enjoy being manipulated. You know, it's one of those things. What can you do? Andy says, thank you, Carrie and Mara. Nice change of pace. A very large change of pace. Yeah, I agree. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I've been kind of walking past this and ignoring it, and I thought, you know, I should show it a little love. Especially if I want to sell it, you know, I'm going to have to do this anyway. So better to have it ready. I don't want to give somebody time to change their mind if they want to buy it. Hurry up, give me that money before you change your mind. Thank you for watching. Thanks to Mara, of course, for all the work she does behind the scenes. And thanks to all of you for being here and joining us today. We hope you'll come back on Friday, 1 o'clock. We'll be live, and we hope you'll join us then. If you want to reach out to us, just as a quick reminder, our email address right here on the screen. Reach out to us. If there's anything you're interested in buying, we can ship within the United States. Nothing this big, though. If there's a problem you want some help with, there's the email. If there's a story you want to share with us about an experience you've had, you personally, not your friends, not something you read online. I'm not interested in gossip. Don't care. But if it's you and you want to share an experience, good or bad, we'd love to hear it. We'd love to hear that. If it's somebody else, then they're welcome to tell us their story, but we don't want to hear it from anybody but the source. Okay? That's gossip. I'm not interested in it. But I am very interested in your experience if you want to share it. So reach out anytime. We love hearing from you guys. Unless what you want to do is send me other people's articles and other people's videos. I don't like that. Okay? If you wrote the article or if you made the video and you want to share it with us, I love that. See how that pendulum swings each side? Thank you guys so much again. We'll look forward to seeing you on Friday. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll look forward to seeing you here in a couple days. Until then, bye for now.